Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-minute Histories videos. And today I'm downtown near City Hall on the unit block at Gay Street. I'm about 20 paces around the corner from the infamous The Block, and it's kind of early on Sunday morning. I'm figuring if I ever have a chance to do this video in peace and quiet, this is it. So let's cross our fingers. All right, we're going to talk about the building behind me, the old Firehouse number 32. It's now home to the Northeast Maglev, the folks who are planning a high-speed rail between Washington and Baltimore, and have to say a quick thanks to a woman there, Ashley McMillan, for suggesting this idea. All right, we're going to jump in and talk about the Firehouse, but we're not going to start in 1907 when it first got going. We're going to start in 1727 when Baltimore town first got going. This block, known as Block 1351, is really intertwined in the earliest days of Baltimore. On the other side of the block from where the Firehouse now is, we know in 1727 a gentleman named Conrad Smith died and left his house in a will. That same house a little bit later transferred to a gentleman named Peter Frick, who was a merchant, traded with China, and the deed was co-signed by none other than the future first mayor of Baltimore, James Calhoun, in 1797. Where the Firehouse is now was the city home of another gentleman named Robert Oliver. He was perhaps Baltimore's wealthiest citizen, estimated to be worth about $1 million at his death. He was at the top of Baltimore's social ladder. He was a pallbearer at the funeral of the Marquis de Lafayette, for example, and he entertained lavishly in his house in what was known as the largest ballroom in the city. After the Olivers, that house went on to become the headquarters for the Union quartermaster during the Civil War, and then a bank, First National Bank for a while. But maybe its most interesting use was as the headquarters of the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Let's say a few words about that. It was founded in 1873 in Hillsboro, Ohio. Its mission was to create a sober and pure world through abstinence, purity, and Christianity. Even in its first conference in 1874, a year after its founding, it adopted the platform to try to end the manufacture and distribution of alcohol. At least in part, that platform was based on some of the social ills that alcohol was behind, including the abuse and violence towards women. We know the Women's Christian Temperance Union mostly for that today, but it tackled a whole host of social problems. It tried to help workers of all sexes. It tried to tackle the roots of prostitution. It lobbied for the raising of the age of consent to protect young women and girls, and it lobbied against tobacco and for public sanitation. And for years and years and years, it worked tirelessly as part of the suffrage movement. By 1890, it was the largest women's organization in the world, so really a powerhouse, although it started losing membership when Prohibition was enacted and then maybe lost even more after it was repealed. But it's still alive today, alive and well. Its headquarters is in Evanston, Illinois, if you're curious. So what happened here at this branch? It was dedicated, the building was dedicated to Mrs. Mary W. Thomas, a longtime supporter, and it was known as the Memorial Building, and it housed a whole host of uses. It had a laundry facility to train young women how to be laundresses. It had missions for young kids. It had missions for new mothers. It had missions for newsboys, and with the Salvation Army, it provided dinners to upwards of 2,000 people a week. Probably the thing that got the most attention, however, was when it installed a fountain out front here that had iced water in it, a cool drink on a hot summer day, 300 pounds of ice a day. The women would pack around coils that ran the water, so by the time it bubbled up in the fountain and you got your cup and you dipped in, it was nice and cool. The Women's Christian Temperance Union was doing well here until February of 1904. And that's when the Great Baltimore Fire happened, and much of downtown was destroyed, including their building here on this block. They chose not to rebuild, but to relocate to Park Avenue. But it didn't take long for the Baltimore City Fire Department to seize this opportunity. And in 1907, they opened the first building here. The building behind me is actually two buildings. In 1907 was the first one. 1909 was the second one. They had an engine company and a truck company, and when it combined, it became known as Firehouse number 32. With 4 big bays, they were able to pull in and out modern fire equipment, still horse-drawn mostly at that time, and it was really the center of firefighting in downtown for years and years. In fact, it was the center of firefighting downtown until 1976, when the 4 bays became too small and too few, and the fire department built what was called a super house up in Old Town that could accommodate a dozen more modern pieces of fire equipment that, of course, were not pulled by horses. The building, after the fire department left, the city used it for various city agencies for a while, and then it became vacant until 1985 when a marketing firm called Levering Associates took it over and repurposed it. And today, where those horses would pull in fire equipment in 1907, today now is the offices for folks planning a train that will be magnetically levitated above the tracks, traveling at high speed between Baltimore and Washington. I am sure if we could bring back some of those old firefighters from 1907, would have a hard time convincing them that that would actually be true. All right, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.